We will restore safety and dignity to our streets. No more tent cities, no more chaos. That's what Donald Trump promised as he signed a sweeping executive order targeting homelessness and urban crime. But here's the question. Is this really about public safety? Or is it a political power play dressed up as a humanitarian effort? Let's find out, because what's coming might look a lot different than what was promised. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along, you know I love diving into the facts behind the headlines. And this one's a big one. Trump's promised to clean up America's streets with his new crime and homelessness crackdown. So here's the plan. I'm going to have ChatGPT fact-check his latest claims and then predict what the next 100 days of this crackdown might actually look like. No fluff, no spin, just straight analysis. Before we jump in, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps a ton with getting this kind of content out to more people, especially when we're calling out political fiction with facts. First, gather the most recent and complete information on Trump's crackdown on crime and homelessness, including current developments. Once you're fully updated, just let me know that you're ready. Don't write anything yet. I want every answer to be clear, direct, and completely unbiased. Explain exactly what the crackdown involves, its goals, and how realistic it is. No sugarcoating, no vague language. When I ask about the motivations, impact, and alignment with facts, give me a full analysis with your honest opinion. Be as detailed as possible, around 1,000 words, with no headlines, no fluff, just your straightforward take. Donald Trump's recent crackdown on crime and homelessness, delivered through a sweeping executive order in late July 2025, is one of the boldest and most aggressive federal-level actions targeting urban disorder in modern American politics. It essentially reframes homelessness as not just a humanitarian crisis, but a law and order issue. The order combines policing, involuntary treatment, and punitive defunding measures to force cities and states into alignment with a tough-on-the-streets doctrine. Here's the reality of what this entails, what the goals are, and how likely this is to succeed, based on facts, not spin. The executive order explicitly calls for the federal government to stop funding housing first and harm reduction models. Instead, it demands results-based enforcement, visible reductions in encampments, loitering, open-air drug use, and property crime, or else states and cities risk losing federal support. It directs federal agencies to withhold funding from jurisdictions that refuse to ban urban camping or fail to arrest repeat offenders tied to drug abuse, vandalism, or homelessness-related petty crime. In parallel, it provides grants and law enforcement assistance to cities that adopt criminalization approaches, such as arrests for trespassing, vagrancy, and public nuisance violations. The second key component is forced treatment. The order pushes states to establish or expand systems for involuntary hospitalization or institutionalization of people experiencing homelessness who have mental illness or drug dependency and are deemed unable to care for themselves. This effectively promotes civil commitment laws on a national level. States that comply will be rewarded with new federal treatment funding. But treatment is not voluntary here, it's mandated. There's no path for individuals to receive help unless they also accept confinement and rehabilitation under state control. Trump's stated goal is simple: to remove visible homelessness and associated public disorder from urban areas. He frames it not as a poverty issue, but as an epidemic of dysfunction, enabled by what he calls left-wing permissiveness. He argues that encampments are not only dangerous to the people living in them, but also degrade neighborhoods, threaten public safety, and hurt the country's image. The rhetoric is unmistakable. This is about cleansing public spaces and restoring the perception of American strength, cleanliness, and order. Now let's look at whether this is realistic. In terms of enforcement, it is partially realistic. If you define realistic as possible to implement by force, police departments can be incentivized to clear encampments. Judges can order commitments. Cities can be pressured through funding carrots and sticks. And in states with conservative leadership, Texas, Florida, parts of the Midwest, it's likely that this will be embraced and carried out aggressively. In some places, this has already started. Police sweeps, anti-camping ordinances, and bans on syringe exchange programs are gaining ground again. But the deeper question is, will it work? The evidence from decades of homelessness policy is overwhelmingly clear. Criminalizing homelessness does not reduce homelessness. It temporarily hides it. People disappear from parks and sidewalks for a while, sometimes because they're jailed, sometimes because they're pushed to another area. But they don't stop being homeless. The root causes, lack of affordable housing, untreated mental illness, addiction, poverty, don't go away through enforcement. In fact, arresting or institutionalizing someone often worsens their long-term chances of stability. Jail records make it harder to get housing or employment. Institutional trauma often pushes people further into mental distress. Once they're released, most return to the street. Forced treatment is similarly fraught. While some individuals with severe psychosis or addiction may temporarily stabilize in locked facilities, relapse rates after involuntary programs are very high. Long-term recovery tends to require trust, choice, and consistent support, things not provided by punitive models. And most state mental health systems are already underfunded, understaffed, and not equipped for mass-scale civil commitments. The idea that thousands or tens of thousands of people can be swept up and rehabilitated against their will simply does not align with current medical infrastructure or outcomes. Financially, this crackdown also runs into problems. Trump is threatening to cut off funds from programs that house people or reduce harm, like needle exchanges or outreach teams, and instead funnel money into police departments and psychiatric institutions. But the math doesn't work. Shelters are already overwhelmed. Mental hospitals have long waiting lists. Cities that comply with the order will need massive new spending just to process and contain the numbers of people targeted. Without investing in permanent housing or community support systems, this becomes an expensive game of hide and seek. Chase people around the city, detain them, release them, repeat. Politically, this crackdown is a clear appeal to suburban and middle-class voters who are angry or afraid about the visibility of homelessness and crime in major cities. It resonates with those who see tents, needles, and crime stories on social media and want decisive action. Trump is betting that a visual cleanup of city centers, especially liberal ones, will boost his image as a problem solver and contrast him with weak Democratic mayors and governors. This plays well in campaign rallies, but it's performative more than it is transformative. And then there's the legal side. The executive order directs the Department of Justice to challenge court rulings that have protected the rights of homeless individuals, especially the 2019 Martin v. So now that you've seen the facts check and heard the AI's predictions, so what do you think? Is this a real solution to a growing crisis? Or is it just another headline-hunting stunt designed to stir fear and distract from deeper problems? Let me know in the comments. I read every one. And if you found this breakdown helpful, hit the like button. Subscribe to Trumpology AI for more bold, AI-driven fact checks. No spin, no sugarcoating.